And as we mentioned earlier in the hour, Ohio Senator Rob Portman made headlines last week with his about-face on the hot-button topic of same-sex marriage, saying that his son coming out had led him to do a lot of soul-searching and that he had had a change of heart on the issue. Joining us this morning is one of the country's most preeminent gay rights attorneys from the Philadelphia area, Angela Giampolo. Angela, first of all, thanks very much for being with us today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, Chris. Thanks for having me.
We talk about the issue with Rob Portman and his change of heart with regard to this issue. Do you find that it is common when a person is confronted with this issue striking close to home that there is often a similar change of heart?
Absolutely. I think it's a theme that we've seen repeated many times during the rapid evolution of American attitudes towards same-sex marriage, where when people learn that a friend or a loved one is gay, they're far more likely to support same-sex marriage, even if they were, once adamantly opposed, as Senator Portman was. Mm-hmm. For him, gay marriage is no longer an abstraction. It's tangible, and better yet, it's personal now.
I think that there are many people who are opposed to the idea of same-sex marriage itself that are still sensitive to a lot of the other gay rights issues, like being consulted on medical issues, protecting joint property rights, inheritance and probate issues, and so on. So why is it that same-sex marriage is so key to the whole gay rights movement?
Because with marriage comes several legal and financial rights that don't come with any other contract here in the United States. So if we don't have the ability to get married in the United States, then we don't have Social Security benefits. We pay certain inheritance taxes that you and your wife wouldn't pay. So it's central to our family values within the LGBT community.
So it's not just, as some would say, a way of mainstreaming the lifestyle and trying to make it a more accepted lifestyle choice. There are legal ramifications here.
Absolutely,
that
huge legal and financial ramifications. I mean, last year alone, there were over 40 couples, LGBT couples, where one of them passed away, and they had to file federal estate taxes. And, well, there were several. There were over 9,000. But of those 9,000, 40 of them, the survivor paid over $4 million in estate taxes that if you passed away, your wife wouldn't have to pay. Yeah. So that's just in 1 year, and we've had DOMA for 17 years.
Critics will point out that, by and large, much of society just isn't ready for gay marriage, for same-sex marriage. They'll point to the fact that nearly every time that a same-sex marriage issue is put on the ballot, voters reject it.
That's not true. In the last election in November, it went on the ballot in 4 states, and all 4 won same-sex marriage. So that's actually, as of last election, categorically untrue. And I would point out that with all of the quote-unquote evolutions that our leaders have been making, it would actually be more striking at this point, or more shocking, if a Republican were to have a grand bargain with Obama on the budget than agreeing with Obama on same-sex marriage. I don't think it was that shocking, Senator Portman's stance, evolution or stance on gay marriage. So as we have more ballot initiatives, I prefer at this point ballot initiatives because we have the majority of the American public at this point behind gay marriage. It's a Republican issue where Republicans oppose it 2-1, but the majority of U.S. people actually favor same-sex marriage.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the party affiliation, and earlier this hour we were talking with Edward Hudgens, advocacy director of the Atlas Society, who made the point that politically active gays whose values of fiscal conservatism and limited government would draw them to the Republican Party were otherwise being driven away by the GOP stance on gay rights in general. So do you see that happening, that gays and those who support their cause would be inclined to support conservatives on their fiscal policies, but are being turned away by their social policies?
Absolutely, and unfortunately, due to our two-party system, that leaves the Republicans shot in the foot. Republicans aren't going to start winning national elections. They just had their CPAC convention last week. Republicans aren't going to start winning national elections until their overall stance on human rights evolves. You know, this is not a gay rights issue. This is a human rights issue, and I don't know where we ever deviated. You know, if Mitt Romney has an issue with the fact that I'm a lesbian, that's why we live in this country, because, you know, it's okay to differ on social and personal reasons, but for him or anyone in his party to be elected president at this point, the nation is going to require all of the Republicans to just be pro-equality. And whatever that means. So
the question then becomes, does Rob Portman's flip on this issue give you any hope that it may signal a larger shift in the party?
Absolutely. I mean, I think so. I don't think you're going to hear, this is my prediction, I don't think you're going to necessarily hear Republicans across the board saying they're quote-unquote pro-gay, but I think they're going to start using the term pro-equality, and gay rights and gay marriage will be under the platform of pro-equality. So it will allow Republicans to say that they're, pro-marriage equality, but not necessarily having to say that they're pro-gay. So I think they're going to find a way to change their stance on this without having to actually say that they're pro-gay.
Like we mentioned, for plenty of old school conservatives, this is still a very difficult issue to sort of wrap their arms around. Would you be open to a compromise in terms of something along the lines of civil unions that would provide all of the legal protections, but without the word marriage as sort of a stepping stone? I'm thinking, because it's a great leap from where the military was to where they are now without don't ask, don't tell in the middle. So I'm wondering, is there a way to compromise on that in the meantime?
Well, I have two thoughts on that. First of all, it's unfortunate that the United States of America, even though we were founded on the separation of church and state, it's unfortunate that at the outset of the U.S. 300 years ago, that we didn't demarcate the difference between a civil union and marriage 300 years ago. And I'm Canadian as well as a U.S. citizen, and 3 or 4 of my aunts and uncles are civil unions, because marriage is a ceremony that occurs in a church. It's a religious ceremony. So I have straight family members that are civil unions who did not want to get married. But Canada has always had that demarcation from 400 years ago. And it's hard to go back as a society now and make that demarcation, because the LGBT community will always feel that it's separate but unequal. And then also, for the conservatives or old school, as you said, something that I like to say that really brings it home, the Republican Party, the conservatives have always said that their stance on this issue is because they want to protect the sanctity of marriage, right? I mean, that's what you hear.
Right.
So there was a staunch Republican about 5 years ago that said something that gave me chills when he voted down a ban. He was the only Republican voted against a ban of same-sex marriage. And he said, this is clearly discriminatory, because if we wanted to protect the sanctity of marriage, then we wouldn't be banning other people from getting married. We would be banning divorce.
It is an issue that obviously is brought to the fore by Rob Portman's announcement. Like we said, turned an awful lot of heads on Friday. But it'll be interesting to see where we move forward from here, especially coming off of CPAC, as you mentioned, and into the next election cycle and beyond. Again, prominent gay rights attorney Angela Giampolo with us this morning. We have a link to your website with more on your writings and articles on this issue at our webpage, goodmornings.net, or click on the Good Mornings link at WFIN.com. Angela, thanks very much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris, and be safe out there.
It is coming up on 8 o'clock now on 1330 WFIN. A winter weather advisory remains in effect until noon today. We will have more details on that.